Black people are under attack in America. But we are not victims and we are not powerless. Our fundamental rights are under assault and our very history is being denied. But we will not stand by quietly as it happens.
The goal is to condition this generation to white supremacy because they see this generation is pushing against this far right-wing fascist ideology. We want our freedoms. We want our people to be safe. And so seeing that as an existential threat to the Republican Party, they aim to change the way a generation thinks by changing what we teach them.
Members of the Congressional Black Caucus did not hold back at a press conference on the state of race in America earlier this week on Capitol Hill. The group highlighted a slew of right-wing attacks on blackness and civil rights, like the ideologically driven Supreme Court ruling that put an end to affirmative action, the challenges to voting rights and equitable redistricting seen recently in states such as Alabama and Louisiana, the onslaught of book bans and revisionist curriculum standards for teaching Black history, and the lack of action to address the Black maternal mortality crisis in a post-Roe v. Wade landscape. In the words of Congresswoman Terry Sewell of Alabama, old battles have indeed become new again. Joining me now is the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, Congressman Steve Horsford of Nevada, and NYU history professor and author of Strong Men, Mussolini to the Present, Ruth Ben-Ghiat. Thank you both very much for coming to the Sunday show. This is an interesting pairing, but the conversation we are about to have is going to merge what each of you has been talking about separately on our air for months now. And Congressman, let me start with you. How dangerous of a moment in time is this for Black Americans?
Well, thank you for having me on, Jonathan. I'm here in Boston at the NAACP National Convention, meeting with President Johnson and leaders across the country, along with our members of the Congressional Black Caucus. And in fact, we did a Democracy for the People event just yesterday, talking to constituents here in Boston.
Meanwhile, Senator Tommy Tuberville, Republican of Alabama, asserted a few times and then backtracked a few times that white nationalists are not racist. Why is it important to call this out?
Well, Jonathan, when these individuals use racist tropes, terms that have very negative, derogatory history and meaning, whether it's the term colored people on the House floor in 2023 or Senator Tuberville saying that white nationalists are not racist. If they're not racist, then what are they? And every time I think they use the word woke, I want to ask them, who are you talking about? Is it Black people? Is it other people of color? Is it the LGBTQ community? Is it women? Because all of these attacks, whether it's on women's access to health care, whether it is providing for fair and free maps, how is it that the state legislature in Alabama can defy the Supreme Court, who told them you have to have two opportunity districts, which essentially means that Black people deserve to have equal representation. And in Alabama and in Louisiana, they are now defying the Supreme Court. This is a ban on Blackness, and the Congressional Black Caucus won't stand for it.
And Ruth, more to the point, the CBC took aim at Governor Ron DeSantis and his efforts to de-emphasize race in his state's public school curriculum. And you also see school districts like the one in Houston, Texas, that
in the last 2 years, 6 countries across Western and Central Africa suffered what the UN has called an epidemic of coups. That number is now 7. Today, soldiers in Gabon seized power immediately after election results were announced. Gabon is an oil-rich country and one of France's most important allies in Africa. Nick Schifrin reports on what led to the coup and what it means for the region.
In Gabon, an election is erased to thunderous applause. Residents of the capital Libreville filled the streets to celebrate what they called their liberation. They declared the ruling family's 55-year reign over. They thanked the army for launching the coup and they called for their former colonists, France, to clear out.
This is Independence Day. The army has freed our country. We didn't know we could be freed. Today we are free.
Shortly before, military officers closed the borders, dissolved state institutions,
and in Congresswoman Presley's district. And what we hear all across the country as part of our summer of action is Black people literally feel attacked. There's a ban on Black, a ban on Blackness happening. It's targeted, it's well-funded, it's organized, and it's orchestrated. And what we are saying as the Congressional Black Caucus is that we're not going back. We're not going to be silenced. We're going to call out those who are promoting this division in our country.
From house arrest today, Ali Bongo appealed for international help.
To make noise for the people here have arrested me.
In Washington, National Security Spokesman John Kirby called the coup deeply concerning.
We will remain a supporter of the people in the region, a supporter of the people of Gabon, and on their demand for democratic governance.
Gabon is the 7th country in Central and Western Africa to suffer a coup since 2021. But unlike those countries across the Sahel, suffering from Islamist insurgencies and internal power struggles, Gabon's problems stem from the Bongo family dynastic rule. For decades, Ali and Omar.
Africa, unite. Africa, unite. Unite for the benefit of your people. Oh, good and how pleasant it would be before God and man to see the unification of all African nations. From the song Africa Unite by Bob Marley. Africa Unite. As a boy, I can remember well the apartheid system. Most, if not all, the white countries of the world celebrated and was happy to know that they put a system in place wherein they can govern all Black people globally to control our wealth, our thinking, our religion, our way of life, to make sure that we become what some people call colorblind, because there's no such thing as colorblind. We see it before our eyes. The Berlin Conference that was called in 1884 to 85, where the white system come together to they establish white countries, and they establish borders, immigration, commerce, who should be placed in what job, who should live in what neighborhood, and establish white supremacy and white privilege. And fast forward in 2023, the same system, the same government structure is still in operation. Each time there is some kind of disagreement, they give it a little tweak, give it a new name, and set it. But the same system from the Berlin Conference, when they decided that we're going to carve up Africa, we're going to own the Black man, Black woman, Black child, we're going to tell them how to live, we're going to set up our system, our prison system, to make sure we set up the police to brutalize them, put them in jail when they get out of hand, make sure they get the crappy job, make sure we set a world to make it hard. We're going to divide up Africa, and we're going to turn the people against each other. Got the Belgians, people, and all those that were involved in the Berlin Conference. They know exactly what they was doing. What they do, they divide the people and put them into tribe and tell one tribe that they might measure their face and their mouth and their arms, and they tell them that you are the better tribe. So they treat this tribe better and treat a tribe worse and say you are the superior tribe and put them against each other. And we still have the tribal system even until this day. Look what's going on in Chicago and the United States, Jamaica and all over. We kill each other for crumbs. Look what's going on across the globe. These things were taught. These things were thought. They sit down and they say, listen, we're going to say that God is white and everything that is good is white. And we're going to put a structure together and we're going to present it to the black people to teach their children that they are inferior and we are superior. But bless be to God Almighty. You know, I grew up around my mother and my grandmother, my aunt, my stepfather. And my mom used to use these words, inferior and superior. And we tell them that you're not inferior to no one. And I never understand, it never really make any sense until when I can ask the question, what do you mean by inferior and superior? And she would explain to me that when someone hackers you're superior, they hack as if they're better than you, they know more than you, you're less than them, and you're an inferior person, you're not up to their standard. And she always tell me that you're not inferior to no one. So from around 5, 6 years old, I grew up with that sort of awareness. Some people would say that I'm arrogant, but I never see no one that I would say that you're better than me, no form or way, because if you come down to it and we, you know, I have to backle it out to backle it out. Because I have that strong assurance growing up from around 5, 6, 7 that if anyone is going to be superior, it's me. Because I'm black, I'm strong, I'm great. But the system of the world, when they check out commerce, education, these people sit down and they plan and they set up a structure how to rule over black people across the globe. They send out their edict to all the white countries or the fair-skinned people. They said New Zealand, Australia, name it, across Europe, United States. They govern with one system, one racial apartheid, white supremacy system. And they put it in the schools, they put it in the dictionary, the words that we use in nursery rhyme, in everything. It comes with a structure. When they were going to carve up Africa, they never invite one single black person. The G7, G8, G20, where is the black representation? The unfair treatment of Africans across the globe, you see. And one of the things that they use to brainwash black people is to tell you that you're not an African. But God gave inspired men words to sing. It may not be written in no laws, great laws, books across the globe. But I hear Peter Touch say when I was a boy, as long as you're a black man, you're an African. Don't mind the nationality or what sort of identity they want to give you. As long as you're black, you're an African. And I grew up singing these songs. Bob said, Africans, unite. Unite for the benefit of your people. He said, how good it would be before God and man to see the unification of all Africans. No. Every little thing. We hear about embargo, we hear about sanctions. And the white racist regime would use this against Latin America, against the Caribbean, against Africa. You either comply or your people perish. They set up the IMF system only to make Africa poor. No, the Africans decided they want to rule their own destiny and take over their country. And what they do, they get other African countries to say, let's farm embargo and bring sanctions against them and bring war against them. When they was going to carve up Africa, were you invited? Were one black person invited? Then how are you going to help out white supremacy? Black people across the globe, open your eyes. The older I get is the more I understand. Because I can see, you don't say, I can see clearly now that the rain is gone. All the obstacles that is before my eyes has been moved away. See clearly, Africans across the globe. See clearly, all African nations come together, come back to one. You were one before the white men came. You were one. They decided that they're going to join, carve up the place, chop it up, chop it up, chop it up, chop up the place. This one take a piece, that one take a piece, that one take a piece, that one take a piece. No, you don't need their permission, black men. You don't need their permission. They never ask for your permission to chop it up. So why do you need their permission to come back together? The word of God said the kingdom of God suffer violence and the violence take it by force. They take it by force, so take it back by force. You got to understand. Why you need them. Stop, follow white supremacy and put sanction on black people. Sanction devastate the world. Sanction kill old people, kill newborn baby. Sanction keep people in poverty. Sanction keep people in prison. Sanction rob you of your health. Sanction is just another form of white supremacy. Those are words that black people should not use. Sanction, embargo, those are white supremacy words. Why are you going to use the white supremacy language against each other? Globally, they have one white supremacy language that govern immigration. The first Immigration Act of the United States was written by the Ku Klux Klan. The Ku Klux Klan written immigration. They said they unstable other countries so that, and then they take you in as refugees while they go around the globe and unstable. Why in 2023 we don't have a direct flight from the Caribbean going into Africa and from Africa to the Caribbean? Why in 2023 we have other nations of military base all over Africa? Where is Africa military base? In America, in New Zealand, in Australia, in Europe? Where is it? Africa, unite. Unite for the benefit of your people. Africa, unite. Your children want to come home. Africa, unite. Oh, good and how pleasant it would be before God and man to see the unification of all Africans. You don't tired to see people hungry. You don't tired to see people in poverty. As long as you're a black man, you're an African. All you black people who are out there will help white supremacy. Your days is gonna, until Africa unite, black people will never be treated with respect. Because we don't have a homeland. White supremacy realize that once you chop up Africa, and once you keep them divided, they're not a strength. Division, you're not a strength, but to come together as one. It's one solid nation. African, home and abroad, Caribbean, rise up. Africans in the homeland, Africa, wherever you be, as long as you're a black man, you're an African. Oh, good and how pleasant it would be before God and man to see the unification of all